Okay, here's the Stewie web that we finished up last week. And everything worked fine because it was nice and flexible. So everything changed depending on the size of the screen. The problem is when we got to here, you can see that, uh-oh, then Stewie overwrites. We can see that the text overwrites the picture, and we don't want that. So what we really want, we want, well, everything's fine until it gets to a certain point. And let's say that certain point is a little bit too much there. Let's just say 610. And that might be different than from my notes. It all depends on what your eyes are. So this here looks pretty good to me. 610 below this, it starts creeping in on that picture. So what we want to do is we want to say that um, above 610 and above, let's keep it just this way. But below 610, let's move this picture on top because we don't have as much real estate left and right anymore. So to do that, we're going to have to do a media query. And to find out about media queries, if you just go in and you do Google CSS media queries, and I recommend going to W3 Schools for that. And then W3 Schools says this about media queries. So if you want to read about this, talks about the different ways we can do it. We're going to be doing something fairly simple. All we care about is the width of the viewport. We're not going to worry about all the different ways that we can do it, or each of our projects will become way, way too complex. And all I want you to do is understand media queries. So we're going to do it fairly simply. One of the things is we need to have this in our HTML, and we have already done that. Well, not this one. You can see that we can do all, we can do a print, we can do screen. And what we're going to be doing is screen. We want to see how that screen works. And then this is what we're going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Control C, copy, and then open up my Stewie CSS, and it always goes at the very bottom of the screen. And what do we say, 610? So I'm going to change this 480 to 610. And I'm not going to do anything else except change the background so we can see how that works. So I'm going to do save all. And then I'm going to go back to Stewie's page. I'm going to bring it on out. And did I save it? I can't remember. File, save all, and then refresh. And you can see now it's light green. And if we move this in and take a look at this, the numbers that are right here, once it gets to 610, whoops, below 610, it turns back to red. So at 610, it moves to green, and below that, it turns to red. So we don't want to have that Stewie picture floating to the left, and we don't want to have that negative margin. So I'm simply going to come up here, and here it is right here. So this right here is what's causing our problem. And that is we no longer want an inline block, we don't want the negative margin, and we don't want it floating to the left when it gets below 610. So I'm simply going to cut that out. Now that's why I said in my notes, just to make it easy. But what I normally do is simply comment it out by selecting all that text. And first I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to hold down my control key and press the slash, which is underneath the question mark key. And now it's no longer going to be red. That's commenting it out. Then I'm going to come down here, and it has to, this right here is the end of the query. And whoops, what? Home row. End of query. And of course, that has to be also commented. So I'll hold down my control key and press the slash. And that's letting me know that everything I want in this media query has to be above that brace. So now I'm going to go ahead and control V and paste in. You see it's off a little bit, so I need to grab these and tab it once to move it back into order. Okay, that looks, yeah, that don't look right. Let's move this in. And I wonder why that's not. And move this over. 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 Not bad. Not perfect. This one goes over a little bit. All right, so now inside our media query, uh, at 610, we're going to float it to the left and do the negative thing. But below that, we won't. And that's what the min width says. At the minimum width of 610, do this. Otherwise, do everything else. All right, so we'll do File and Save All and refresh. Let's move this back out again. Okay, so that's above 610. When I refresh, nothing changes. But now that when I move in, boom, you can see now we're up and down, and then this will take us all the way to the bottom. So all we worry about is 350. So you can see, and this is 350. 350 is about the smallest smartphone. Now we might say, okay, well, that's fine, but I really don't want Stewie's picture to be right up here. So I can do one thing. I can add padding to the heading, which will move it down, or I can add margin onto that image, which will move it down. So let's go ahead and let's add some margin to that. So if I come back up here, it's this header image. I want that. So I no longer want this commented out. So I'm just going to drag this to header. So that's going to stay. But in here, instead of floating it to the left, I want to do margin top. And let's make it 1 EM. That's going to be 16 pixels, the size of a character, so size of this line. All right, and let's do File, Save All, and then refresh. And you can see now it moves that down. I don't know if we want to do that or not, but let's just do it anyway. It's not in the notes this way because I didn't want to get that wrapped around the axle, but say we wanted to move it down. Okay, so now we're happy. But then when we move this out, beyond 610, we have a problem, and that is, we didn't want this here. So that means we need to go to the media query and remove it from that. We can easily do that by going now down into the media query. We have this header image. It's floating to the left, but it also has top margin of 50. So now we're going to do margin top and take away that 50 by using 0. And we'll do File, Save All, and refresh. Boom, now it's back the way we want it. But below 610, it will have that 50. See how that works? All right, one last thing. Oh, no. Let's see. Now, if we want to see it on the internet, we have to log into FreeHostia, so I'm going to go ahead and do that next. Okay, so logged into FreeHostia. Here are my domains. Here's my Stewie, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that address. Now I want to go into my files and file manager because I want to copy in that new CSS. So here in file manager, we have this. And remember, we have a stewie.css. That's what we're working on right now. We have saved it. So what I'm going to do is grab this stewie.css and copy it into here. And it might not be wide enough. Let's see. Let me make sure. And I let go. And it's copied. So now this is a new, you can see, stewie.css modified 318. Oh, 83. That's us. Okay. I'll say March, January, February, March. That's okay. So now when I take a look at that page, paste, it will go here. Okay. I want to go ahead and copy that address. Let's take a look at Stewie. There it is. That's the internet Stewie. And now when I bring it in, boom. All right, so now it's working perfectly. The last thing I want to do now is go to IM responsive. Whoops, not there. And paste that in. So again, I'm going to come here and I'm going to go into here Control V, and go. And then I'm going to maximize this so we can see what we're doing. Actually, maximize is not a good idea. And just make it really wide. Or there we go. All right, so now Stewie's there, but you can see Stewie's not there. What I have to do is I have to actually click on the Stewie page. That's the bad thing about the way this. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. And here, remember, our index page is not responsive. We didn't go back and make that responsive. So what I need to do is scroll across here, find that link. And you can see light green, light green, light green, but red here because we needed this to be a different size. These all look good anyway, but once we got to the smaller size, we needed a smaller one. And now we can see that everything works. Oops, I didn't want to do that. You can grab the scroll bar here and see everything is working perfect in all the different sizes. So that's how we do responsive design. And now we're on to the next project.